everybody at? It's Paul from Wicked Acorn. I'm laughing at the title of this video this morning. I every morning I wake up with a song stuck in my head, and that's a line from a song that was stuck in my head this morning. It's from an old Newfoundland folk song, and we'll get to the video in this day in history in a moment. I just want to tell you about this silly title. The first thing that pops into my mind is what I name these videos. Um, it's uh, it's from an old folk song, and Newfoundland folk songs, uh, any folk songs really. Nobody knows who wrote most of them, but when you get into the late 1800s, then songs start to have writers and authors, and you start to know who wrote the songs. But they're always contentious on who wrote the songs. And one of the songs, um, I'm trying to do a a concert, a live concert with music and my videos, and talk about different things that have happened. I'm trying to find connections between Greater Manchester and Newfoundland, and that's kind of what the video, the concert, will be about. And this song came to mind of, and it really sent me down a rabbit hole because, as I said, the author of these songs are often contentious when you get into the late 1800s. Who wrote that folk song? And one of Newfoundland's most famous uh, musician, folk singers, folk writers, folk songwriters, is a guy called Johnny Burke. And he wrote a song called Old Brown's Daughter. Now you'll see it credited to another guy, and coincidentally from Greater Manchester, or lived in Greater Manchester. And I don't know if I'm going to attempt to sing it this morning at this hour of the morning. Oh, there is an ancient party at the other end of town. He keeps a little grocery store, and the ancient's name is Brown. He has a lovely daughter, such a treat to see her serve. I only hope someday to be the old man's son-in-law. I got the words wrong there. And it's old Brown's daughter is a proper sort of girl. Old Brown's daughter is as fair as any pearl. I wish I was a Lord Mayor, Marquis or an Earl, and blow me if I wouldn't marry old Brown's girl. Not the time of day to be singing. It's supposed to be, he has a lovely daughter, such a treat I never saw. I only hope someday to be the old man's son-in-law. Anyway, like all these songs, it has 68 verses. But yeah, there's contention about who wrote that song. Johnny Burke, very famous Newfoundland songwriter. And like a lot of these songs, they never have music. So, because most of these songwriters weren't trained musicians, they couldn't write music, couldn't, write music to dots. So they would just have the words, and they would sell them as broadsheets. And that's how they made their living, selling broadsheet music, which had no musical notation on it whatsoever. They'd often say, to the tune of another popular song. And friends of mine did a play about Johnny Burke called The Bard of Prescott Street. I actually lived in the basement of his house on Bond Street. It was on the corner of Bond and Prescott. Uh, he was called the Bard of Prescott Street, and friends of mine did a play about it called the Bard of Prescott Street, and a guy I worked with, played with in a band, Ron Hines, probably the most famous Newfoundland singer-songwriter. He wrote the music that I just sang. So if you ever hear someone singing Old Brown's Daughter to that tune, that's a Ron Hines song. He wrote the music for that because no one knows the tune to Old Brown's Daughter. There are several versions you'll hear online, but that's the best one. Anyway, today in history, we have to talk about today in history because today is the 7th of August. So we'll get over to our snaps here and check out some photos of this day in history. Now, in 1711, on this day in history, the 7th of August, was the first race meeting held at Ascot, and it is established by Queen Anne, thus giving them the status of Royal Ascot. Now, I don't know anything about horse racing, but a lot of people do. This is a good one. 1840. The employment of climbing boys as chimney sweeps was prohibited by an act of parliament. It's Aeroplane, is it, Darren? When I make comments out of context, I'm responding to the live stream comments. If you want to leave a comment, please do. Yeah, chimney sweeps. Now I'm going to tempt fate a second time here this morning. I'm going to tempt fate a second time. First time was singing a song, tempting the YouTube gods, the copyright gods. I'm going to tempt them again now because this is what I want to do with these live stream things, is get reacting to other videos. That's what I want to do, and I'm going to tempt fate again here now with this little clip because the chimney sweep thing is pretty funny. And this little guy here, this is funny. So it was made illegal in 1840, but this little guy, this video I'm about to show you is from 1933, and it's just a little clip of the video. He's only 3 years old, up sweeping chimneys. Now I think the law prohibited them from climbing up and down chimneys. It didn't prohibit them from being chimney sweeps. It just, they weren't allowed to climb up chimneys. And just imagine, man, oh man, oh man, oh man, it's just insane. I did a video a while ago, worst jobs in Greater Manchester history, and that's one of them, chimney sweep. That, can you imagine a little child sticking them up a chimney to, with a brush to clean? It's, I was watching QI a while ago, and it was they were talking about workplace related diseases, and like repetitive stress injury and things like that people get from the job, from working on the job. And the very first one, the very first recorded job related disease, injury, is chimney sweep scrotum. I don't know. I don't know. Something, I guess, inhaling all the cold. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was just a joke on QI. I don't know. 19, no, sorry, 1879. This one came up a couple of times. When I'm searching these things, this day in history, there's a bunch of different sites that have it, and they all have this one. And it's a very curious thing because it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I mean, it's a big deal to this channel because it's in Greater Manchester, but it's a strange thing for these international this day in history sites to note such a thing. It's the opening of the Poor Man's Palace in Openshaw, Manchester, a Salvation Army citadel specifically for soldiers in the area. So that's kind of a strange thing to be of international note. I don't know why it's so noteworthy. I mean, it is to us, of course, here in Greater Manchester, but it wasn't the first one. It wasn't the first one in the country. It wasn't the first one in Greater Manchester. It was the third, I believe, Salvation Army church or whatever it's called. Yeah, so I don't know. Something to look into. Another one today in history, 1925. Britain introduced the Daylight Saving Act, bringing in British summertime, so the nation changed clocks by 1 hour twice a year, and that's a an American photo, of course, for a poster. The first country to adopt daylight saving was Canada, and not all of Canada does daylight saving. It's I know Saskatchewan doesn't, so that's interesting. That's another this day in history, and it's contentious. It comes up every year. You know, should we have daylight saving at all? So I guess we'll be talking about that again soon. This is a good one. 1926, the first British motor racing Grand Prix was staged at Brooklands, 110 laps of the track for a total distance of 287 miles. The winner was Robert Senechal in just over 4 hours at an average speed of almost 72 miles per hour. Can you imagine the breakneck speed of 72 miles an hour? My wife's grandfather told me about the first car in St. John's in Newfoundland, and there was a front page news story about it, of course, the first car in St. John's. And that's what it said. It went down Water Street at the breakneck speed of 8 miles an hour. So yeah, back in those days, I mean, average speed of 72, I guess, was nothing to be sneezed at in 1926. The leave this one till last because this is what we're going to look at today. This guy. This is Samuel Cody, Colonel Samuel Cody. He was a U.S. airman, and he was. Well, let's get over to the video. I'll roll the video, and I've got some video of this guy, and we'll talk about Samuel Cody because he's somebody we talked about before, and he was. He was the first man to fly an airplane in Britain. And unfortunately, he just paused there. He 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 seems like he was a bit of a carny, you know, a bit of a showman. And he wasn't born Samuel Cody. His name was Samuel Cowdrey or something like that. And he told people he was the son of Buffalo Bill Cody, William Cody. And he certainly is playing the part there with that look, isn't he? And yeah, he really seemed to have played. He had a bunch of different careers. Seemed to be like an entertainer kind of guy. And he ended up here in Britain and really playing up the Buffalo Bill Cody son thing there with the. I don't know what this photo is. There's no description of this photo, but he's there with. You know, I don't know if that's a real Indian. It could be, one of the Indians from the Buffalo Bill show when they visited here, because it was around that time. And oh, by the way, August 7th, the connection to August 7th was not only was he the first person in Britain to fly, he was also the first to be killed in a plane crash, an aeroplane crash. So he was the first casualty of powered flight in this country. And like James Sadler, who was the first to fly in a balloon, first to fly in this, he he James Sadler was an Englishman who was robbed of the title of first to fly. He was the first Englishman to fly, and that's the first Englishman to fly was A.V. Rowe, and you probably know that name, Avro. He was the first Englishman to fly. And James Sadler was the first Englishman to fly in a balloon. He was robbed of the honor of being first by an Italian. I can't remember his name, Vincenzo Lunardo, something like that. Um, yeah, and there's a blue plaque to James Sadler, Balloon Street, of course. Named after not Cody, Sadler's adventure being the first to fly in Manchester. But Cody was the first to fly in an aeroplane, and they really look like a piece of junk, don't they? When I look at those photos, I just think to myself, no way, not not gonna happen. I'm not going up in that thing. It looks so flimsy, doesn't it? It looks just so ridiculous. It's so I don't know if they keep showing that as so I found this footage, and this footage is in the reason I know this guy and know about this guy is the video we did about the London to Manchester air race, and he was actually going to have a go at the London to Manchester air race, but he crashed his plane. He didn't die in that crash, but he crashed his plane on the way to participate or have a go at the London to Manchester air race. The London to Manchester air race kind of turned into an actual race, but it wasn't set up as such. It was just whoever did it first would be the winner of the prize. So it wasn't like, on your mark, get set, go. You left of your own volition, whenever you wanted, have a go. So Cody was on his way. I can't remember now. Uh, so long ago since I looked at that video. But yeah, he was doing the Liverpool to Manchester. Maybe that was after. But he had a crash before the the London to Manchester. I love this footage here. So he shows up and just take note here. See who's paying attention. You notice his left arm there? I don't know anything about this. Well, I do know why there's a black band around his arm. Do you? Anybody know why there's a black band around his arm there? So I love this. He's going. The title gives away what happens at the end, of course. But I love this. Look at that. He spins the wheel. It just humanizes it so much, doesn't it? It looks like quite a large rig, doesn't it? And they pull it out of the shed here, and it looks like it folds up a bit. They're unfolding the tail section there. So he was the first to fly, and this, look at this. I talk about these things looking like a piece of junk, and they do, but if you really pay attention, look at the shine on that propeller. That is like somebody really put attention into that. Like that is a heavily gloss coated piece of wood. That's you could see the reflection of the sky in it here. Just look. That's not some piece of junk. I mean, they look so ridiculous. All that string and wire, and so the this is just a few years after the Wright brothers. The Wright brothers were they were very litigious. They they what they did was they what did I do with that thing I was playing with? I love the story of how the Wrights came up with the because the problem with powered flight was they couldn't figure out how to maneuver. They couldn't turn. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't, because it was just a kite. And the problem was being able to maneuver, and that was part of the um, one of the Daily Mail prizes was one of the first prizes was to be able to do a circle, fly in a circle. Um, London to Manchester was another. First quarter mile or first mile, small leaps and steps of advancement. And the story of I don't know if you can see this here. The story of how I can't remember which of the Wright brothers it was, but they were bicycle. They built bicycles. That was their trade. And anybody, not this thing. Never mind this thing. But do you remember? Does anybody remember when bicycle tubes used to come in a box like this, an open-ended box? I remember them. They'd be folded up, and the little rubber ends of the tube would stick out the ends. It wasn't a closed box. I remember that. But so they were bicycle repairmen, built bicycles, and somebody came in and bought a inner tube for their bicycle, and Wilbur or Orville, one of them, I can't remember which one, was just sitting there playing with this box like you would, right? Just standing there chatting away to the guy. And he went and he realized, and if you can imagine that as an airplane wing, like a biplane, that's how they figured out how to maneuver the airplane. It's called wing warping. So the first airplanes, that's how they operated. They didn't have ailerons or anything to make them bank or turn. That's how they did it, wing warping. And the Wright brothers were so litigious. This is back at the beginning of well, the Wright brothers were the first to fly, so of course it's at the beginning. But they patented the airplane. The Wright brothers patented the airplane, and anyone who built anything resembling an airplane after them, they sued them. And really, I wonder if they hindered advancement by doing that, or if they actually helped advancement in doing that. Just look at that thing on the end of the, he's got like a steering wheel mechanism there, and that, on the end of the steering wheel, this spike sticking out. So when you crash, that thing's going right through your chest, isn't it? And that's probably what happened. Oh no, I read about he had a passenger with him when he crashed and died, and they both died. And they said afterwards, if he was wearing a seatbelt, they both would have lived because they were thrown clear, and that's what killed them. And that was one of the guarded secrets of the Wrights was they built their motor, their engine out of aluminum. Very guarded with their technology, like you would. But yeah, they really guarded their invention at the beginning, and then afterwards, they with the patents, they just sued everyone who built anything resembling an airplane. So people had to come up with different ways. So I wonder if the like the wing warping, it wasn't a very good idea. I mean, it solved the problem, but of course, all these planes you see here have flaps, which work much better. And I wonder if that was because the Wrights were so litigious that people came up with different ways just to get around the Wrights. So there's this crash. Obviously, he wasn't too harmed in that crash. But he's an interesting fellow. He, like I said, he seems like he might have been a bit of a carny. And so the British Army hired him to. He started with kites, and he was the first guy to go across the English Channel. He was towed across the English Channel aloft, hanging from a kite. That was. I just put this in here because this was a clip, and the at the this day in history. It was a few days ago that this movie. It's called The General with Buster Keaton, who's you know Buster Keaton's amazing, absolutely amazing from the silent film era. Um, and I used this clip in the London to Manchester air race uh, just as a little fun thing. Because in the London to Manchester air race, he couldn't figure out how to get from London to Manchester because it was just visual. There were no instruments. So he would use the railway. But when he got to a junction, he had to, memorize, or he couldn't figure out which. Okay, do I go that way or do I go that way when you get to a junction on the railway? And the railway offered to paint the sleepers white. So when you get here, follow the white sleepers. So that's how he found his way from London to Manchester, following the railway. And when he'd get to a junction, they'd paint the sleepers white so he knew which direction to go. So it wasn't as the crow flies. He actually followed the railway. And this was just a fun thing that I stuck in talking about the railway painting the sleepers white. And that is a Farman biplane. That's the kind that went from in the London to Manchester air race. That was a cigarette box. And we've been talking about the London to Manchester air race. So just let this little clip here play and get back to our question I posed yesterday. This is the London. Have I ever covered the aerodrome on Rackhouse Road in Northern Moor? No, I have not. And good morning, Hoggle 1983-0. No, I haven't covered that. That's something to look into for sure. So this is Didsbury here, these photos, this video film. So that's so go to our yesterday I showed you some photos and asked you if you could figure out where they were. And let me see if I can find it here. So I showed you this photo and this photo and asked if you could figure out where it is. Isn't Airplane the American version like the film? Don't call me Shirley. Yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah, that was just a airplane is the American way of saying it, and aeroplane is the British way. So these places, I was wondering if anyone could figure out where they were, and I'm not surprised that nobody could figure out where this is. But it came up. Uh, this is the same place. You'd never get it from that photo. And this is a person from that house, and that's staff from the house. So of course you'd never know those people. But this house and this park, maybe someone would recognize. So it came up um, during this. I was, hey, where is that? Oh, did I not put that in? I don't think I put that in. Okay, never mind. I forgot to put that video in. So it was a video I did a few weeks ago down looking at the Bull's Head pub, the mosaic on top of the Bull's Head pub. And it says Hardy's. And I was asking, what's Hardy's? I imagine it's a brewery. No one answered that question, but that's not surprising either because it's long ago. But that's what these photos are. These photos are Hardy's Brewery. That's in Hume, Renshaw Street. So that was the brewery. At that time, it was a pub. This photo here. So Hardy's was a brewery. There's one of their labels. And that place is, it might be there. I haven't gone too far down the rabbit hole looking at this story. Um, just put that photo up there. So the garden photo in the early part of the 19th century, the property known as Tintesfield, T-Y-N-T-E-S-F-I-E-L-D, Tintesfield, Tintes Field. I don't know how it's pronounced. Tyntes Field. In the early part of the 19th century, the property known as Tintes Field was farmland until the locally famous banker Mr. Samuel Brooks bought the land in 1850 and erected the building. So that's the house photo you saw there. This one. Erected the building. The picture illustrates the Rose Garden, that was the other photo, in the 1920s when it was occupied by Mr. Fred Hardy, who was born in 1860 as the second son of Mr. George Hardy of Hardy's Crown Brewery. So it's just an interesting little thing. The photo of the man and woman are Miss Rosemary Hardy, daughter of Noel Hardy, at Tintisfield on their wedding day. And the trees in the Cannon photo, that is Tintisfield, trees planted at the turn of the 19th century when wealthy cotton merchants first came to the sale area. The trees are protected by a preservation order. So I couldn't find out a whole lot about this, but I think it might be there where the red dot is. In 1845, the land appears on sale tithe maps in the area known as Smithy Field. Now, let me get my arrow here. So, of course, that's Smithfield there, not Smithy Field. So that's Smithfield. So I don't know if that place over there was called Smithy Field. Does anybody remember a Smithy Field? In the 1850, in 1845, the land appears on the sale tithe map in the area known as Smithy Field. In 1850, Samuel Brooks bought the land and built Tintisfield. Prior to 1933, Hardy's, the brewers, owned the property. In 1956, it was sold to AEI, who in turn sold it to Cheshire County Council for use as a primary school. So that was the only clue to that, was that it was sold to Cheshire County Council for use as a primary school, and it's called Tintisfield Primary School. So that's just a guess as to where those photos are. But anyway, it's all connected to the Hardy's Brewery and Samuel Brooks. So that was that day, that photo identification. So I got another one for you. This one's gonna be real easy. Everyone will get this one. So this is for tomorrow. See if anyone can figure out where this place is. So I'll leave that on screen for a moment, and hopefully someone can identify that place. Where is this place? Can anyone tell me where this is? Okay, it's time to get to work, and we'll see you in the next one.